Imagine this. It's pouring rain, the doorbell rings, and your husband's best friend drops a bombshell that flips your world upside down. Fast forward, tense talks by a lake, a cozy night with pizza, and then, bam, a dusty old box spills a secret that'll leave you reeling. What's it say? Why now? Stick around. This story's got twists you won't see coming. Hey, before we jump into this tale, drop a comment with where you're tuning in from and hit that subscribe button. Ready? Let's roll. Rain hammered against my roof that night in suburban Seattle, turning the streets outside into shimmering ribbons of light. I've always loved the sound of rain. It's like nature's white noise, softening the world's edges. But that night, it felt different, like it was setting the stage for something big. I was in the kitchen, wiping down plates after a solo dinner, when the doorbell cut through the drumming. It was almost midnight, way too late for anyone to just pop by. My husband, Jake, had left that morning for a work conference in Portland, so it was just me and the quiet house. My stomach did a little flip, but when I peeked through the peephole, I let out a breath. It was Ethan, Jake's best friend since their college days. He stood under the porch light, soaked, his sandy hair plastered to his forehead. Something about the way he held himself, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, made me pause. "Liz, hey," I said, swinging the door open. "What's up?" He shifted his weight, hands jammed in his jacket pockets. "Sorry it's so late. I just needed to talk to someone." His voice had this edge I wasn't used to hearing. Ethan's usually the guy cracking jokes, not sounding like he's carrying the world. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. He hesitated, then crossed the threshold, dripping water onto the mat. I grabbed a towel from the hall closet while he peeled off his jacket. "Coffee?" I offered, needing something to do with my hands. "Yeah, thanks," he mumbled, his eyes drifting to the rain-streaked window. He looked lost, standing there in my living room, like he didn't belong in his own skin. I busied myself with the coffee maker, the familiar hum filling the silence. But it didn't last. "Liz," he said, his voice low, "I've got to tell you something." I turned, mug in hand, and saw how tight he gripped the towel, like he was nervous. "I've got strong feelings for you." The words caught me off guard. The rain outside roared, but inside, everything went still. I blinked, trying to process it. "What?" I said, setting the mug down before it slipped. "I've got strong feelings for you," he repeated, quieter now, his gray eyes meeting mine. "I felt this way for a while. I didn't mean to spring it on you, but I had to say it." I stood there, frozen, the coffee forgotten. Ethan? The guy who'd been at every barbecue, who'd taught me how to grill a perfect burger, who'd been Jake's shadow for years? My mind spun. Part of me wanted to laugh it off, say he was joking, but his face, raw, unguarded, told me this was real. "Ethan, you can't just—" I started, but he cut me off. I know how this sounds. I don't expect anything, Liz, I swear, I had to say it." He ran a hand through his damp hair, looking like he regretted every word but couldn't take them back. I sank into a chair, my knees shaky. "Why now? Why tonight?" My voice cracked, and I hated it. He exhaled, sharp and quick. "I was driving home and I couldn't stop thinking about you. About how I've been pretending everything's fine when it's not. I'm sorry. I didn't plan this." The air felt thick, like it was pressing down on me. I've known Ethan since I was 24, back when Jake and I were just dating. He's been the third wheel in the best way. Always there, always steady. But love? That word didn't fit. Or did it? I shoved the thought away, focusing on the mug in front of me, the steam curling up like a question mark. "Say something," he said, his tone almost pleading. "I don't know what to say," I admitted, meeting his gaze. "You're Jake's best friend. You're my friend. This is a lot." He nodded like he'd expected that. "I get it. I'll go if you want." "No, wait." I held up a hand, stalling him. "Just give me a second." My heart was pounding and I didn't know why. Was it shock, anger, or something else I didn't want to name? I've always prided myself on keeping things simple. Jake and I have a good life, a solid one. But here was Ethan, tossing a curveball I never saw coming. Look, I said, forcing my voice steady. I'm married. You know that. Jake's your best friend. I know, he said, his shoulders slumping. That's why I never said anything before. But tonight, it hit me. I couldn't keep acting like it didn't exist. I stared at him, this guy I thought I knew inside out. Have you felt this way the whole time? Not at first, he said, his voice quiet. It crept up on me. Little moments, like when you'd laugh at my dumb jokes or when we'd all hang out and I'd catch myself watching you. I tried to ignore it. But it's real, Liz. Real. That word stuck with me. I wanted to tell him he was wrong, that he'd misread something. But deep down, I wondered. Had I missed signs? Had I been blind to something right in front of me? I shook my head, pushing the thought away. Ethan, I can't. You don't have to, he said quickly. I'm not asking you to feel the same. I just needed you to know. The rain kept pounding outside, matching the chaos in my head. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the weight he'd been carrying. It wasn't just a confession, it was a release. And me? I felt like I'd been handed a puzzle I didn't want to solve. Okay, I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. You've said it. Now what? He gave a small, sad smile. Now I leave it with you. I'm not here to mess up your life, Liz, I promise. He grabbed his jacket, heading for the door, but paused. Thanks for the coffee, he said, like that could wrap this up neatly. Then he stepped out into the rain, leaving me standing there, staring at the spot where he'd been. I didn't move for a while. The house felt too quiet now, the rain too loud. I kept replaying his words. I love you. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it, like it had been tearing him up inside. And here's the thing I couldn't shake. Part of me wasn't mad. Part of me felt something. Not love, not like that, but a flicker of what if. What if I'd noticed sooner? What if things had been different? I sank onto the couch, pulling a blanket over my legs. This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm Liz, 28, happily married to Jake, living a normal life in Seattle. Ethan's the friend who's always there, not the guy who drops a bombshell like this. But he had, and now I had to figure out what it meant, not just for him, but for me. See, life's funny like that. It throws you curveballs when you least expect it. And sometimes, the hardest part isn't the moment itself, but what you do with it after. I didn't have answers yet, but one thing was clear. That night, with the rain and Ethan's words, changed something, whether I wanted it to or not. Ethan's words from last night still buzzed in my head like a radio I couldn't turn off. I sat at my kitchen table, coffee gone cold, staring at the mug like it could explain why my world felt tilted. He'd said he loved me. Ethan. The guy who's been Jake's best friend forever. The guy who's been at every game night and 4th of July cookout. I couldn't shake it. So there I was, gripping that mug, my knuckles white, when I realized I had to face this. Ethan, I said when he picked up my call later that morning. Can we talk? Like, now? My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Yeah, Liz, where? He replied, quick, like he'd been waiting. My place. Jake's still in Portland. I didn't overthink it, just needed answers. He showed up 20 minutes later, hair still damp from a shower, gray eyes flicking to mine as I let him in. We sat across from each other at the table, the same spot where he'd dropped his bombshell last night. No coffee this time. I didn't want distractions. Why'd you say it? I asked, cutting straight to it. Why now? He leaned forward, elbows on the table, hands clasped tight. Because I saw you yesterday morning, at that coffee shop on Pine Street. You were laughing with the barista, something about a spilled latte, and you looked so alive, happy, and it hit me hard. I couldn't keep pretending. I frowned, trying to piece it together. Pretending what? That I don't feel this way, he said, voice low but firm. I've been shoving it down for years, Liz, telling myself it's nothing, that I'm just the friend. But seeing you yesterday, it broke something loose. My stomach twisted. Years? How long? I asked, barely above a whisper. He looked down at his hands. Since before you and Jake got married. Maybe longer. I don't know, it snuck up on me. I sat back, air rushing out of me. Before the wedding? That was 4 years ago. I pictured him at our engagement party, grinning as he toasted us, and felt a pang. You've been carrying this the whole time? Yeah, he said, meeting my eyes again. I didn't want to. I tried to let it go, told myself I was happy just being around you guys. But it's not enough anymore. I rubbed my temples, head spinning. Ethan, I don't get it. You're Jake's best friend. You've seen us build a life. Why drop this on me now? He gave a short, humorless laugh. Because I'm an idiot, I guess. I thought I could handle it. Be the good guy, stay quiet. But lately, it's like every time I see you, it's harder to fake it. I stared at him, his words sinking in. And then, uninvited, a memory hit me. 3 years ago, after a barbecue at our place, Jake had crashed early, leaving me and Ethan cleaning up. We ended up on the back porch, talking till the stars faded. He'd looked at me that night, really looked, and I'd felt something. A spark. I'd brushed it off, locked it away, but now it was back, clawing at me. Liz? Ethan's voice snapped me out of it. You okay? No, I said, honest for once. I'm not. You're telling me you've loved me all this time and I had no clue. What am I supposed to do with that? He leaned closer, eyes searching mine. Nothing. You don't have to do anything. I didn't say it to mess you up. I said it because I couldn't breathe with it inside me anymore. I shook my head, frustration bubbling up. But it does mess me up, Ethan. You can't just say that and expect me to act like it's no big deal. I know, he said, voice softening. I'm sorry. I didn't plan this, I swear. It just came out. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Okay, let's say it's true. What's the point? I'm married. I love Jake. You know that. I do, he said, nodding. And I'd never ask you to change that. I'm not here to break anything. Then why tell me? I pressed, my voice rising. What's the end game? He paused, then shrugged. There isn't one. I just needed you to know. Maybe that's selfish, but it's the truth. Selfish. Yeah, it was. But I couldn't hate him for it. Not when I saw the relief in his face, like he'd finally set down a weight. And me? I was mad, sure, but there was something else, too. That spark from 3 years ago. It wasn't just him. I'd felt it, too, even if I'd buried it deep. Ethan, I said, forcing calm. This is a lot. I need time to process. Take all the time you need, he said, standing up. I'm not going anywhere. Well, not unless you tell me to. I managed a small laugh despite myself. Don't tempt me. He smiled, just a flicker, then grabbed his keys. I mean it, Liz. No pressure. I just had to be honest. As he walked to the door, I called after him. Hey, thanks for not making this weirder than it already is. He turned, grinning faintly. I'll try to keep the weird to a minimum. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I sat there, replaying everything. Years, he'd said. Years of hiding this. And I'd missed it. Or maybe I hadn't. That night on the porch, the way he'd looked at me. Had I known? Somewhere deep down? I didn't want to admit it, but the question wouldn't leave me alone. Here's the thing. Truth doesn't care if you're ready for it. It shows up and demands you deal with it. Ethan's truth was out now, and it wasn't just his anymore. It was mine too. I loved Jake. Still do. But this shook me. Not because I felt the same, but because it made me wonder about the what-ifs. What if I'd seen it sooner? What if life had gone a different way? I stood, pacing the kitchen, my socks silent on the tile. I wasn't mad at Ethan. Not really. I was mad at how this made me question stuff I thought I'd figured out. Marriage, friendship, all of it. And the worst part? Part of me didn't want to shut this down completely. Not yet. That's the messy part of being human, I guess. We don't always know what we feel until someone forces us to look at it. Ethan had done that. And now I had to decide what came next. Not for him, for me. After Ethan left that morning, I couldn't sit still. His words kept bouncing around my head, stirring up stuff I didn't want to deal with. I grabbed my phone and shot him a text. "We need to talk. Lake Park, 6 p.m. No going back now." I spent the day restless, pacing my house, trying to figure out what I even wanted to say. By the time I got to the park, the air was cool, the grass still damp from last night's rain. Ethan was already there, leaning against a bench by the water, hands in his pockets. He looked up as I walked over, his gray eyes catching the fading light. "Hey," I said, sitting down next to him but keeping some space. The bench creaked under me, and I stared at the lake, ripples spreading from a duck paddling across. "Hey," he replied, voice soft. He didn't push, just waited. I took a breath, diving in. "Why'd you have to tell me, Ethan? What's the point of unloading this now?" He shifted, looking out at the water too. "Because I was tired of holding it in, Liz. It's been eating at me. Years of acting like everything's fine when it's not." "Years?" I repeated, turning to him. "You mean since before Jake and I got married?" "Yeah," he said, nodding slow. "Back then, I thought I could deal. Be the friend, keep my distance. But it's gotten harder. I don't know why now. Maybe I just hit a breaking point." I crossed my arms, frustration bubbling up. "You could have said something back then, before I said I do. Why wait till I've got a whole life with Jake?" He rubbed the back of his neck, wincing. "I didn't want to mess things up. Jake's my best friend, you know that. I figured I'd get over it, that being around you guys would be enough. But it's not." "So you dump it on me instead?" I snapped, sharper than I meant. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Nothing," he said quick. "I'm not asking you to leave Jake or anything crazy. I just couldn't keep pretending. It was killing me." I looked at him, really looked. His shoulders were slumped, his face tight with something like regret. He wasn't lying. This wasn't some play. It was real, and it had been tearing him up. "Okay," I said, softer now. "But this changes things. You get that, right?" "I know," he said, meeting my eyes. "And I hate that part. But I couldn't lie to myself anymore, or to you." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Ethan, I love Jake. He's my husband. My life's with him." "I get it," he said, voice steady. "I've always known that. I'm not here to wreck anything. I'd never do that to him, or you." "Then what's the deal?" I asked, leaning forward. "You tell me you love me, but you don't want anything from it? That doesn't add up." He gave a small, sad smile. "Maybe it doesn't. I didn't plan some big move, Liz. I just needed you to know where I stand. What you do with it, that's on you." "On me. Great." I stared at the lake, ducks gliding like nothing was wrong in the world. "You're putting me in a tough spot," I said finally. "I thought I knew you, like really knew you. Now I'm not sure." "I'm still me," he said, turning to face me. "Same guy who's been around forever. This doesn't change that." "Doesn't it?" I shot back. "You've been hiding this the whole time. How do I trust what's real now?" He flinched but nodded. "Fair. I guess I've been faking it more than I realized. But last night, saying it, it felt like I could finally breathe." I got that. Honesty can do that, but it didn't make this easier. "I didn't see this coming," I admitted. "You caught me off guard. I mean, you're Ethan. You're the guy who fixes my bike and burns the hot dogs at cookouts." He chuckled, a real laugh this time. "Yeah, well, I'm also the idiot who fell for his best friend's wife." "Don't say that," I said quick. "Don't make it a joke." "It's not," he said, serious again. "It's just the truth." The truth. That word hung heavy between us. I thought about that night 3 years ago, after the barbecue, when we'd talked till dawn on my porch. I'd felt something then. Nothing big, just a flicker. But I'd ignored it. Now I wondered, had he felt it too? Had that been the start? "Liz," he said, pulling me back. You don't have to figure this out right now. I'm not pushing you. Good, I said, half smiling, because I'm a mess over here. He grinned faintly. You hide it well. Do I? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Because inside, I'm freaking out. That's fair, he said. I dropped a lot on you. Yeah, you did. I paused, then added, but I'm glad you're not, like, begging me to run off with you or something dumb. Never, he said, holding up his hands. I'd lose that fight anyway. Jake's got better hair. I laughed despite myself, the tension easing just a bit. True, he's got that going for him. We sat there for a second, the quiet stretching out. Then I said, I don't know where this leaves us, Ethan. I need to think. Take your time, he said, standing up. I mean it. No rush. I'm not going anywhere unless you say so. I nodded, watching him step back. Thanks for being straight with me, I said as he turned to go. Always, he replied, then walked off toward the parking lot, his figure fading into the dusk. I stayed on that bench, staring at the water. He'd left it up to me. Great. I loved Jake, no question. He's my rock, my home. But Ethan's confession had cracked something open, and I couldn't unsee it. It wasn't about loving him back. It was about what his words made me feel. Confused, yeah, but also awake. Like I'd been coasting without noticing. Here's the thing. Life's not a straight line. People like Ethan remind you of that. He'd been honest, and now I had to be honest with myself. Not about Jake or even Ethan, but about what I wanted my life to mean. That scared me more than anything he'd said. I drove home from the park with Ethan's words still ringing in my ears. The sky was dark, headlights cutting through the Seattle mist, but my chest felt heavier than the air outside. I'd told him I loved Jake. True, no doubt about it. But something kept nagging at me, like a loose thread I couldn't pull without unraveling everything. I pulled into the driveway, the house glowing warm against the night. Jake was back from Portland, probably sprawled on the couch like always. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. Hey, babe, he called from the living room, voice muffled over the TV. The smell of his piney cologne hit me first, then the sight of him, feet up, beer in hand, football flickering on the screen. Normal. Comfortable. Hey, I said, kicking off my shoes. How was the trip? Fine. Boring meetings, good coffee. He glanced over, grinning. You? Went for a walk by the lake, I said, keeping it light. I didn't lie, not really, but the half-truth sat funny in my throat. I plopped down next to him, the couch dipping under me. He patted the spot beside him. Come here, you look wiped. I slid closer, his arm settling around me like it belonged there. It did. This was us. Years of late-night talks, road trips, burnt dinners we laughed off. Ethan's confession had shaken me, sure, but sitting here, Jake's warmth seeping into me, I felt grounded. I love you, I said suddenly, the words spilling out. He turned, eyebrows up, caught off guard. Whoa, where'd that come from? His grin softened. Love you too, Liz. He squeezed my hand, eyes back on the game, but that moment stuck with me. It wasn't just words, it was my anchor. The next couple days I kept busy. Work, groceries, a call to my sister. But Ethan lingered in my head. His honesty, that sad smile, the way he'd left it all up to me. I didn't owe him anything, but I couldn't ignore how his words had woken me up. Not to him, to myself. I'd been coasting, hadn't I? Happy with Jake, yeah, but maybe too comfortable. I started noticing little things. How Jake hummed off key making coffee, how he always left the cap off the toothpaste. Stuff I loved, stuff that was us. Ethan had forced me to look at it all harder. By Wednesday, I knew he was leaving for a work gig in Canada. My phone buzzed with his text. Take care, Liz. I'm here if you need me. I stared at it, thumbs hovering, then typed back. You too, Ethan. Short, simple, done. I set the phone down, feeling lighter, like I'd closed a chapter. That night, Jake and I ordered pizza, sprawled out on the living room floor like kids. He tossed a crust at me, laughing when I swatted it away. You're weird tonight, he said, eyes playful. Good weird. Maybe, I teased back, leaning against him. Just thinking. About what? He popped open another beer, handing me one. Us, I said, taking a sip. How we've got a good thing going. He smirked. Yeah, I'm pretty great, huh? Shut up, I laughed, shoving his shoulder. But he was right. He was great. And I'd chosen him every day, even when I didn't realize it. Ethan's curveball had made me see that clearer than ever. Here's the thing. Life's messy. People like Ethan show up and flip the script, making you question what you thought you knew. I could have let his confession pull me under, but instead, it pushed me to dig into what mattered. Jake. This life. It wasn't perfect. Whose is? But it was mine. Love's not just butterflies. It's the choice you stick with when the dust settles. I'd made mine. Friday rolled around, and I was folding laundry when Jake came home early, tossing his keys on the counter. Got a surprise, he said, grinning like a kid with a secret. Yeah? I folded a towel, eyeing him. What? He pulled out his phone, showing me a picture. A little cabin by Mount Rainier. Booked it for next weekend. Just us. No work, no phones, no nothing. My heart flipped. Seriously? Yep. Figured we could use a break. He stepped closer, tugging me into a hug. You in? Totally, I said, melting into him. It was perfect. Him, us, this moment. Ethan faded a little more, a shadow I didn't need to chase. The week flew by, and I kept that cabin in my mind like a promise. Saturday morning, I was sipping coffee, scrolling through emails when my phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. Settling in up here. Hope you're good. I smiled, typed a quick, glad you're safe, take care, and hit send. That was it. Clean. Final. I'd chosen my path. But then Sunday hit, and everything flipped upside down. Jake was at the gym, and I was cleaning out the hall closet when I found an old shoebox. Photos, ticket stubs, random junk from years ago. I sat on the floor, flipping through it, smiling at pics of me and Jake at a Mariners game, our first hike together. Then I saw it, a Polaroid from that barbecue 3 years back. Me, Jake, and Ethan grinning on the porch. My stomach dropped. That night, the one I'd remembered with Ethan. It was right there, frozen in time. I turned the photo over and my breath hitched. In Ethan's messy scrawl, it said, "The night I knew." My hands trembled. He'd written that then? Before Jake and I got married? I dug deeper, finding a folded note in the box. It was short, dated the day after that barbecue. Liz, I'll never say it, but you mean so much. Be happy with him. The room felt unsteady. He'd felt this way back then, and never told me. I'd thought it was over, but here was this surprise from years ago. I held the note, eyes wide, pulse quick, and then the front door clicked open. Jake was home. If you loved this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, drop a comment, and pass it along to your buddies. This is an artistic and fictional creation intended for both entertainment and educational purposes. Any resemblance to actual people or events is purely coincidental. Some scenes and dialogues in the video are part of a dramatized performance and incorporate elements of grotesque, satire, and exaggeration. The creator stands against discrimination, violence, and hatred. This channel fully complies with YouTube's policies and does not infringe upon copyright laws.